Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo, and each episode, my guests and I will bring you fresh, fun ways to rock your life as a health professional and create a business that aligns with who you are and the life you want to live. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Rockstar Doctor Life. I am thrilled, as always, to have a conversation with an inspiring chiropractor who's doing great things. So welcome to the show, Dr. Kristina Stitcher.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this podcast with you today.
So you're doing a lot of great things within your practice, with family, with some coaching that you're doing. Give us sort of a nutshell, though, right now for the people who don't know who Dr. Kristina is. Who are you? What are you doing? And how long you've been in practice, kids, all that stuff. Give me a nutshell version of who you are.
I love it. I'm actually currently in Las Vegas. I just spoke at Parker Seminars yesterday, and I'm enjoying being here. I am a graduate from Parker, and early on in school, I knew I wanted to see pregnancy and pediatrics. So I started doing that very quickly into chiropractic, and then had my own baby right before I graduated chiropractic school. It was a home birth. Yes. Yeah. Crazy time to do that. We think it's perfect timing. It's crazy. Yeah. And it was a home birth, wonderful birth, but it also totally, it was hard. It was really hard. And my son needed to be adjusted right after birth. The cord was actually wrapped around his neck, around his body. And luckily I had a chiropractor there with me. And I firmly thought that if I had done everything right, my child would be born unsubluxated. And luckily, gratefully, wonderfully, I had a chiropractor with me, because as soon as she adjusted him, he took a full breath of air, blood literally flowed to his face, and he did amazingly. And it changed my entire life, because I felt I had done everything right, and yet I absolutely got to witness the fact that a chiropractic adjustment changes lives instantly, saves lives, and is the best thing we can do. It's what I believe every newborn deserves to have. And so I quickly went on a mission to say, this is me, this is what I want to be. And so that I've now been in practice 16 years. I am heavily involved in our state association. I'm now on the licensing board in the state of Utah. We have a referral-based practice, amazing practice, couple associates who are rock stars and amazing. I'm married, 4 kiddos. We have the 3 I birthed, we had at home. We also adopted one in the process. And I then took over Practice Evolution from my mentor, Ogi Russell, who, after hiring him back in 2006, he really taught me how to be the best doctor I could be, how to be clinically excellent, communicate chiropractic at a level that just makes sense. And so is this paradigm shift from back pain, neck pain, or whatever it is that someone comes in wanting to treat, to understanding what their health is capable of and wanting to achieve optimized health. And so in 2016, we did a transition year. I took it over in 2017, and it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to run that and coach other doctors and see success, and then stay in practice. It's a boutique coaching practice because I am still in practice, and I love the fact that I coach and am in practice every day. So I'm part of these miracles. I'm doing it. I'm working on me. I just heard today it's called a practice because we haven't quite perfected it yet. I go, yes, because isn't that the whole idea, is to keep on making it better.
Wow. So you have a lot going on.
Yes.
Which I love. So many things I want to start asking you. So the first thing that comes to mind is, so similar to you, I became a mom before I became a chiropractor. My son was born 4 days after I graduated from the CMCC. So I started life as a doc, also as a mom. So what was that like for you? Because a lot of listeners, men and women, are struggle at times with finding their role and finding their place, especially when the kids are young. It's easier once they get into teenagers. Well, it's easier. But but how did you have 4 children? And so you've always been in practice and you've always been a mother. So do you have any tips or suggestions for people about how you manage that?
So I listened to Skip Weiss's interview with you, and I love that you went down that road with him. And it was interesting because I was comparing myself to what he had done, and I actually took a different path than what he did. But the first thing I mentioned was that, to me, William's birth was hard. It wasn't, I had prepped, I had done everything. And for some reason, I just didn't expect the deepness of what contractions and labor is like. It was hard. It was so hard, but yet it was efficient. It was effective. Everything was beautiful, but I felt like I was left to kind of struggle alone. And after William was born, we were in the midst of moving. part 4 boards. I took 3 weeks after he was born. So I went right into boards. I got deeply depressed. And I really struggled, and I didn't fully pull out of it for probably the first about 8 months to a year. And I didn't realize it's like our body changes. So it did impact me as a doctor. And I started my own practice, had a change with home and an opportunity potentially for my husband. So I went and worked as an associate. And though it wasn't the practice that I would want long-term, here's the thing that I thought was most important. This doctor, like, he was so good at building me up. He was reminding me of my potential when I was at a point in my life that I was so on top of the world getting into chiropractic and then going through being a mom, and it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. And it was so life-changing. It just rocked my world. I really lost a lot of confidence, and working with another doctor who just built me up. So I've done the same with my doctors, because it was the best gift. The most beautiful thing he could do for me was to build me up and remind me of my potential, my power. And so because of that, I chose a path where I found really good people in my neighborhood that could watch my children. And so William was one. He was kind of that high needs baby, always needed to be held, probably because his mom was high needs and really type A. And so we really, we had people watch our kids all the way through. And in many ways, it was a blessing, because I knew my kids were in good, loving hands. And then I could go to practice and have this safety in practice where I knew my child's okay. Now let me take care of my patients. And it's hard as a mom, in my opinion, for me at least, it's hard for me to separate completely mom mind and doctor. When I'm in a doctor role, I'm giving and just pour. And then when I'm mama, it's different. And so I really have loved to separate the two in the best ways, because it has allowed me to be the best I can in each moment.
Yeah, you touched on so many important things there. One is the value in having great support around you and finding the right people to support your family life, and being okay asking for help and delegating. So listeners, I mean, if you need that reminder today, where can you delegate or find more people in your life to support you? I mean, I always say, if you want to have it all, you can't do it all. So you delegate in your business, but where can you delegate in your personal life? The other thing that I love that you shared is the value of an associateship position. I mean, so many times people think it's, maybe not what they want, or they think it's like they should have their own practice. And I'm always reminding them, look, there's going to be different times of your life that different roles within chiropractic are going to maybe be more suitable for you. And certainly what you just shared, gaining that confidence and that experience, and also probably for you being able to walk into an office and adjust and be a doctor, and then go home at the end of the day and be a mom, was probably a huge gift. You weren't running a whole business, and that can be a really beautiful asset in time.
Well, and I love that you say it like that, because as you're saying that, what I'm hearing, what resonates with me so well was, it was a successful practice. So I got to see what success was very quickly. I got put in a position of trust at a very high level. So I'm not trying to grow a practice where a lot of times we're in our own head and it's just not doing what we want it to be. And so really where I was mentally, emotionally, like, to be able to step into my role as a successful doctor, and for this doctor who says, no, I know, Kristina, you've got massive potential. I can see your abilities. Let's really leverage those for people's health. I saw miracles. And I also got out of school not thinking I'd ever be a high volume practitioner, because I thought high volume doctors were unethical and run of the mill. And I didn't appreciate what it was. And then I got into a high volume practice, and everyone's definition of high volume is different. So I understand that. But at the same time, I was seeing a lot of people, and I realized that I could make a massive impact in a higher volume practice. And so again, it changed that paradigm. And I love that I have so many times in my life that my prejudice when I was younger had to be confronted, peeled away. And now I go, why would I not want to be able to help as many people as I can? If I have the ability to do it, I've got the systems, procedures, the support to be able to help a lot of people, then that's what I want to do, because we got to make massive impacts as doctors.
And so what point, how long were you in that associate position? And at what point did you have your own practice? Because that must have been another transition point for your family.
Yeah, so I officially started my own practice within 3 months after graduation. About 3 months after that, my husband says, well, maybe I want to become a chiropractor. And that was what made me transition to associateship. Because I'm like, we're going to move in potentially a year. It's like, let me go work for someone else. And so I worked for another doctor for about a year and a half. And we, at that time, also decided to have another baby. And that's what kind of transitioned that out very quickly. I had always kept my practice. And so I went kind of small. I actually legally, we had a little tight breakup with the doc I worked with, and I was allowed to keep my home. And so I ended up running a practice out of my home for about a year and a half, and it was really successful for a home-based practice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people ask me my advice on a home-based practice, and I've done it, and I can see the benefit behind it. My patients still, like, they were just joking with my front desk. They're like, I remember holding McKaylee and bouncing her as she was going and getting the mail or something like that. Like, just crazy things, and my patients love that.
Yeah.
And
it's a different culture.
It is. And, but yet it limited my growth. And at the same time, and that's nothing wrong with that, because it was exactly what I needed at the time. But I also really felt drawn to doing something at a higher level. Mm-hmm. And as soon as legally I could get into an office and not be fighting contracts and everything else with this doctor, I got into an office, and then I very quickly, the timing just aligned beautifully, that I hired Ogie as my mentor. And within 6 months, my practice was like on a rocket ship ride. It just blew up. I believe I was fully ready for it. Mm-hmm. I was ready to take care of me, and my family was taken care of. Things like that had fallen into place appropriately. And it was one of going, okay, I know I'm called for this. Let's go do it.
So was it a headspace thing? Like, when you started working with Ogie, like, if you were to think about what was the massive change that caused your practice to sort of explode, can you distill it down to a couple of things?
I can, because headspace was actually really good. What I didn't have was the communication. I was working in an associateship that was more pain-based, and that wasn't what I wanted. And schedule-wise, patients were put on schedules more for the benefit of the practice than for the benefit of the patient. At least that was my perception. And so I really struggled giving care schedules. And then by hiring Practice Evolution and hiring Ogie, I learned how to communicate as a doctor. Literally, it was like I'd listen to him talk. I'm like, that's the best way to say that. It's like it was the words that were in my heart that finally could be communicated. Mm-hmm. And you communicate with a patient of, where are you now? And then this paradigm shift of, where do you want to go? And just really build up what their potential is. So my patients, I had a smaller practice. I was like 30, 40 a week when I first joined the Practice Evolution program. And within less than 6 months, I was over 250. And I never did anything for marketing. I just changed how I communicated and what I looked for and what I was doing. And then my patients, just all of a sudden, it was like wildfire, that they were telling everyone about me. And even people I remember laying on the table, I had one lady that I adjusted for a couple of years. She looks at me and says, I didn't know you guys could do that, because I changed my communication from pain or from the spine to function. Mm-hmm. And to, these nerves control this organ. And if these nerves aren't communicating properly, this organ can't function properly. And so that was my biggest take home, was, how can I be the best doctor I can be in every way? Mm-hmm. And then show up for these patients that deserve to have the best doctor.
Mm-hmm. And now, fast forward, now you're speaking at a massive chiropractic event, which is super awesome. Yep. What keeps you so inspired right now?
So now it's like that higher purpose. I look at it, I have an amazing practice. And I heard this last year from Devin Rana, and I'm going to give her full credit for it, that the expression is gratefully unsatisfied. I love that. I am so grateful for my life. I'm so grateful for my practice. I'm so grateful for what I have. And I feel like I can do a little bit more. So I felt compelled to get involved into the politics and to give back. I love to speak. Being a speaker inspires me. It gives me joy, as I can just share from my heart. And at the same time, I really know that my purpose now is to leave this profession better than I found it. And I can have a bigger impact. I don't want to leave practice. I love my practice.
Too fun.
It is
so much fun to address people.
Yes. And we need to have a bigger reach. It's like, I can feel that responsibility, that obligation, and go, I can do that. And my family can also see me participate at a high level, and they can be edified in this process as well. They can be uplifted because I'm giving to a higher purpose.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So, you're on your state board, you're running a coaching program, you're in a practice, you're traveling to speak. What are your tips for managing your time most effectively? Or how do you get it all done?
I love that question, because
it's a hard question to answer.
It is such a hard question. But I remember reading a book years ago, and I can't remember the name of the author, which you may know him, is Eat That Frog.
Oh,
And
no.
okay, so now it will come to me at some point. But I loved what he said. It was the best analogy. He said a frog is ugly. And so you do the ugliest thing at the beginning of the day. So even
Okay.
if you didn't accomplish anything else, then you got one thing done that was huge. The thing that normally we would put off and procrastinate. What it does though is I'm a huge list person. I love lists. I love getting shit done. To be totally honest, I am uplifted in that. And at the same time, I'm highly organized. And the biggest change that I've had in the last few years is rather than feeling like my life is just happening so quickly, like I'm choosing my life. I'm choosing my days. I also have gone through a pretty good health crisis this last year. And so I had to reset a lot and reprioritize a lot and also acknowledge I love my life and I'm happy to be in my life. And I prioritize my family a ton. Like I'm in practice Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm done at 3:00 so I can be home with the kids because they're teenage and middle school, high school, one still in elementary school. These kids need me more now than when they were younger. And I didn't expect that. So even though so I'm very intentional, I guess is a good way to put it. I'm extremely intentional with my time. And I also have made massive time for my family and just downtime. And that has been really a beautiful thing to add into my life.
I love it. Yeah. It's, you just wear different hats and that you just somehow it shifts. But if you're present in the moments that you're in and you're intentional about the work that you're doing and you're fueled by that, you said earlier, I love you talked about having a higher purpose, because people ask me all the time too, how do you do all these different things? I'm like, I don't know. I just do them because I'm happy and they excite me and it's fun. And if you're chasing the fun and you feel like you're called to do something, then it never ever seems like work.
Right.
I have a question for you though, around gaps in communication. I mean, is this something that you see with your clients right now in Practice Evolution program? You talked about how much of a powerful shift it made for you when you started working with Dr. Ogi. What are some of the gaps in communication you see right now with your clients?
I actually would love to say something that just happened this morning. I had someone come up and say, like, literally, are you Dr. Kristina Stitcher? And here's my problem, which is I will literally say, like, I will guess this is 80% of our profession. How do I get out of a pain-based model? My patients come in pain. They leave when they're out of pain. My exam speaks to pain. I don't even know what to look for and communicate to outside of pain. And I see this of going, we don't want to be a back pain, neck pain practice. And yet we haven't been taught or we haven't heard from the right people how to talk in a different way, how to communicate function. And so I find that most doctors have created a pain-based practice by default because they didn't have the communication skills. They didn't have the clinical skills to know what is normal and then how to inspire a patient, not scare a patient, because there's a big difference between the two, but how to inspire a patient of here's where you are, here's where you can and really, well, let's first of all, here's where you should be, which is normal. I expect my patients to function normally. That isn't a pie in the sky thought. Like, no, you should be able to pass every exam I do because that's normal function. And then we normalize normal. And then once they get to normal, we go, okay, what do you want to optimize? Let's now really dive a little bit deeper. Let's talk about where we can take your health because we want to stair step your life and layer on what we can do. But I find a lot of doctors don't have the communication and then they're not willing to confront because they're not sure of who they are and what they stand for or that they can get the results. So they're just doing the best they can. And I really believe most doctors want to do more. They just haven't found a way to do it or found the right coach and right mentor because a lot of practice management is all about outside in, more new patients. And I'm exactly the opposite. Practice Evolution stands for inside out. Become an amazing doctor first. Become so attractable to the right patients that they will flood your practice because you are the doctor they've already been looking for, they're already praying for, they're already seeking out. Now you show up ready to deliver the goods because you've got the skills to do it. Your practice has no choice, just like physiology, your body has to heal. Your practice has no choice but to explode to what you can handle because it's now ready.
It's a gap of clarity and a gap of confidence, right? It's first not knowing what kind of practice that you want. And I see this with my clients all the time too. And then being able to confidently communicate that. Yeah. Well, I even said too about, optimizing. I talk to people about expanding your potential. Like so many times people in our practices and listeners, I know that you've experienced this too. Like they forget they've lost what normal, healthy feeling in their body should be. And it's like giving them the opportunity to reset that to show them, okay, you know what, you're trying to do a squat right now. And if I measure that, it's like 80 degrees. You should get down to the floor. And if you can't, how is that affecting your ability to pick up your grandchild or just function around your house, or let alone do any of the hobbies and sports that you want? But people forget how naturally vital, healthy, amazing they should feel. And I love, that's why I'll never give up practice either, because I love having those conversations and having people reset their level of normal for themselves.
Well, and I love that you say it like that, because I look at like what I love marketing and paying attention to marketing. You look at pharmaceutical companies that have done a really good job of teaching us we're inherently sick, weak, diseased, and dying. And we have no control over it. And we're here standing as really the only healthcare advocates that has a big enough voice to say, no, you're inherently powerful, capable. Your body can self-heal, self-repair, and it should function normally. And so I love that paradigm shift. I love sitting down with someone and go, no, let's talk about your potential. I love it. The optimization, what you really can do, should do. And I use that word on purpose because I expect it. Now let's have you enjoy your life fully, because now I love what you said, like to feel normal and to realize what you can actually do with normal.
Yeah. Let's just reset that whole, that whole. So, we all see people in our practices that are struggling and that need to reset, right? Their level of normal, because they've gone through a crisis or their body has broken down, and that's what our job is, to help them start healing. Obviously you've alluded to a health challenge in your personal life, being depressed with your first child. We've all had struggles in our personal life that affect our professional ability. What has helped you the most get out of those situations? Do you have like a thought process, mentorship, a book or resource, or anything that's really helped pull your mindset back when it's been a little funky?
The best thing there's a couple things that come to mind as you say that. I'm a big podcaster. I listen to a lot of audibles. It's like, I really try to feed my mind with the best of the best. I speak a lot to gratitude. I just put together a whole mini class on that as well, because I understand that we're all, we've been through some really crappy moments in our lives that we're carrying that crap on us. And so part of it is seeing the opportunity, but I also am a huge believer in setting our practices up as a safe space, that our shit stays at home. And when we're in our practice, that doesn't come in. And what that does is it creates even just a break for the doctor to not think about the rest of their life, or that part of their life, or even their health that's not going well, but be able to now serve at a higher level. And what it does is it creates safety for our patients. It creates safety for our team, because they got to leave their shit at home as well. And so it's an expectation, but what it does is it creates this very healing space for everyone to have an opportunity to, I work with a lot of my docs, is we've gone through grief and really hard moments. And that's my number one recommendation to them, is your practice is your safe place. It's your refuge from the storm. And that way you're taken care of, you're edified while you're there. You can serve at the highest level. You're uplifted in that. And now you're even better as you re-engage in your life to be able to take that at a higher level.
I think so many times in my life, and I've gone through difficult things, and my practice has been that space. I'm always so thankful that I have work that I love, and for the power of chiropractic, and the relationships that I have with people in my practice, because being in my practice has often given me the courage and the momentum and the joy when I haven't had it in other areas of my life. And that's a really beautiful analogy. And if you can really stay in that energy, in that zone, then you get in a beautiful adjusting state too, right? You're just sort of just moving and not thinking, and just really responding to what the people in front of you need. So this has been a super great conversation. I would love to know, before we wrap up here, you just spoke at, Parker. What was the theme of your talk? And what was, if there was one lasting nutshell you wanted to leave doctors with today, what would that be?
So the theme of my talk was literally what we just talked about, was headspace. Okay. Because I firmly believe that most docs don't feel like they're good enough deep down, and they battle that. And we allow other people outside in to influence our worth. And my biggest take home is, if we just sit back and really see our potential as a profession, see our impact that we really have, not in pain, but in function, in life, in connection, in communication, in generational connection, that a child that's healthier has a better relationship with their parent. That means that the parents have a better relationship with each other because now there's not the added stress of the child being sick or whatever the situation is. That now there's connection that literally just bleeds over into every aspect of our lives. We truly create more healthy, connected communities with what we do. And if we just step back for a moment and just honor that, and then we acknowledge that power and take that responsibility, we would have no choice but to have to lock down our doors at the end of each day to say, no more, I'll see you tomorrow, because patients would be beating down our doors for what we do, begging for us, demanding to be cared for because they see it. And that's what we need to do, is we got to fix here. This isn't a redheaded stepchild syndrome that someone else has given us. It's what we claimed. And we need to give that, remove that, because that's an obstacle from our potential as a profession. And it's time. Our communities need us.
I love it. Thank you so much for making a little bit of time with me here today while you are at the conference. It's been a great pleasure. Listeners, be sure to check out the show notes and connect with Dr. Kristina Stitcher to find out what she's got going on with her programs. She's also often on the Prime Pediatrics podcast. So if you want to get inspired and learn about, gosh, you guys have just talked about so many things recently, immunology and obviously pediatric exams. It's a really, really great podcast too. So we'll put links in the show notes there. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's an awesome pleasure. Definitely appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Find out more about today's guests and everything else that we talked about in the show notes. You can also find all this content and so much more, including videos, blog posts, and how you can work with me on the Rockstar Doctor Life website. If you haven't yet reviewed the show, we'd love it if you headed on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review about what your thoughts are about future episodes for the show and what you like best. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Melissa Longo DC, and of course on Facebook. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.